Hello, my internet friends. Welcome to another, I guess live slash podcast, as we'll talk about here in a little bit, of the Little Black Couch. Welcome and thank you for joining me today. Those that are live, please let me know. And those that replay, hashtag replay, please. That kind of gives me an idea of who's doing what and where and why. And if there's anything that you would like me to discuss going forward, also throw it in the comments. That's the easiest place for me to see it. So I wanted to get on really quickly and discuss something that has been bothering me for a while. And not because it's like a big problem, but because I knew that if I could solve it, it would free up some time. I'd buy back some time, which is super important in an entrepreneur's life. And so I wanted to discuss that real quick. And the first part of it will be right now. Watch what happens. Love entrepreneurship? I do. I have been researching and living entrepreneurship for the last 30 years, and I believe entrepreneurship is the most efficient method to solve world problems. And I am passionate about helping those who dare to dream find solutions to these problems as they learn to live their definition of success. Hi, my name is Aaron Stewart, and I am so glad you have joined us today. And I welcome you now to the Little Black Couch, a journey in entrepreneurship. Okay, so those of you who have been with me for a little while know that that isn't the normal start to the show. Do you like these lines here, folks? So I've been wearing a hat today. Well, no, I wore this hat today because I did some shows for Data Access Golf, which is my golf podcast. And sometimes live. But so I always wear a hat because it makes me look like a golfer. So there you go. This is my costume. I am a costume designer, and this is it. So this is also my Halloween costume every year since my first child was born. I go as a golfer. So just a life hack. I guess I could bring that up, right? Oh, there you go. A life hack. Just keep it simple with and it also brought up a nice, beautiful beach view out the window. So keep your Halloween costumes as simple as possible, much like your dress. You don't want to have too many choices. You want to, who was it? It was Catherine today on whatever I kept saying headspace. I want to keep the headspace free for stuff that's more important. Right? So things that we want to keep the headspace for creativity. Right? So and that's kind of the point of this live is so much of what you do as a content producer. And I obviously come from a more traditional school of entrepreneurship where this online game wasn't part of what we did when we started. And now it's become a big part of it. And that also means that I've learned from, if any of you follow Russell Brunson or ClickFunnels or really anybody who's online right now, they're just publishing so much content. So you realize, and having an SEO background, I realized, look, if I don't start producing some content, then things aren't going to go well for me. And you can blog, but blogs are really tough to rank for anymore. There's just so many of them, and there's so much information coming out of blogs. So you have to look for the one that's bringing in the most traffic. And right now it's video, right? So I went and started a podcast. So that's the Golf Podcast. And then I realized that, okay, in order to really repurpose the content as much as possible, video is probably the best way to go. And when you go and look at the video numbers, as far as like advertising and finding folks that, just got a breaking news alert. Finding and for folks finding you and for the algorithms to show you more often, that video is just a great way to go. Nick Fitzgerald always does a great job of talking to us about this, right? So we need to make sure. I said earlier today that I always said right. I always said okay, so, but it sounds like I say right so more often, right? So anyway. But that's it. So as a content producer, as I have been working on this new product to simplify the marketing side of getting our message out there on all the social media sites, I have also been trying to streamline the process of creating content. Okay, and there was a very good argument made over the weekend on a podcast that I was listening to about the importance of having a podcast, because live video is great, but you have to watch it, right? And sometimes you've got a lot of people who are commuting or going on that way where they just want to listen to a podcast. They don't want to have to watch anything or get a video or whatever. And the podcast platforms have made it so easy for us to publish podcasts that, why not? And so I started thinking, you know what? I need to do a better job of, I like the lives and I believe in the power of video. That has been made very, very clear to me watching the numbers of even this video. And then when we've added in the marketing that goes along with it, the automation that goes along with it, I can see what it's trending, right? I can see the trends, and it's growing and starting to build. So you definitely don't want to get away from something that's growing and starting to build, but can you repurpose this into a podcast that doesn't make your life miserable? So when I first started doing this live, I had this grandiose idea that I would set up my phone essentially, and I would record a little opening, because I like to do a little opening for a podcast, and then do your little intro, and then do the podcast, and then end it up with something. And I've learned a lot about how you end up podcasts over the course of this. Like, I launched the golf podcast about a year ago. So making sure that last little message has some sort of call to action in it, right? So that wasn't something I've been doing, and I've tried to change that over the course of the last couple of weeks, because we had a really good training on that from Parker Woodward. And who was the guest at that time? Darn it, the name escapes me, but I don't want to hold up here. But it was really good training on a podcast and making sure that your podcasts are most effective. So I'm like, okay. So what I used to do then is I tried to set up an iPhone, and I would try to do a podcast the way I was doing a golf podcast, but then I would also try to do a live and try to mesh the two. And it didn't really work out. And a lot of that was because I somehow or another got it in my head that the intro for the video had to be visual, and that the intro for the podcast had to be verbal, right? And I had to keep them separate somehow. And it just wasn't working. So I would do a live, and I would download it, and I would convert it into an MP3. And then I would go out and I would cut the music from the intro and the outro, which, we did kind of hear it. This is it, right? Oh, I hit the wrong button. Is it this one? The end. Let's see. The outro. Where'd it go? Oh. Well, you know the music. The outro music. Okay, so that's a very visual outro and intro. It has things on it like, grow bigger, grow faster, has my family, has a bunch of stuff. Very visual. It's got some music playing to it, so pretty cool way to start a video and end a video. And then it's got some branding, and it's got all our social media stuff at the end. So it works really well for video. But when you try to take that to a podcast, that doesn't translate well, right? It's just music. And it's not even music that's doing anything for anybody. It's just taking up time, and it's wasting their time as a podcaster. So what could I do to make things differently? And so what I've done, and you kind of heard there, is I took the video, and then I put a voiceover on top of it. So it's still the video. It still has the fancy visuals and stuff, but now it has a voice to it. Now, the voice... passionate about helping those who dare to dream find solutions to these problems as they learn to live their definition of success. Okay, so you can kind of hear me talking then. So you've got the music playing, and then I make the music go down, and then I put a voice on it. So if somebody's listening, so I can just take the same exact recording. I can now take this live and convert it into an MP3, and then upload it as a podcast. I've got my intro and outros already in there. All the folks are going to hear in a podcast, they're going to hear music, and they're going to hear me talking. They don't need to know that all the visual stuff was going on. That's just for you folks, right? And so it took me way too long to realize that was an opportunity to really cut out some time. So it not only saves me some time when I do it, but it now makes sure that I can have a message in my intro that hopefully introduces everybody who's listening on a podcast as to what we're trying to accomplish at the Little Black Couch. But then it gives me the opportunity at the back end, when I upload the audio for a podcast, I also have the ability to add in some different outros at the end, depending on my offer. The software allows that. So I've got the music playing, and it's a very generic, basic sort of message, but then I have the ability to throw on something a little at the end there that would then make it very possible for them to be driven to some kind of other message. And it has to be, obviously, if you're doing it on a podcast, it has to be something that's very easy to remember. And I think sometimes, you have to assume that they're not going to be able to pick up their phone and do something if they're in their car driving. And research shows us that a lot of folks listen to podcasts in the car. So having a call to action that would cause them to grab their phone or write something down or whatever, that's not wise. So something that's super easy to remember and something that helps them get to where you want them to go. Okay. And then, so that brings me to the next little point. A lot of people have asked me why I have so many different brands. And so at the start of this show, I've got my Dr. Aaron R. Stewart, MBA, PhD, little logo here with my little DR, Dr. whatever thing there. And then you've got up here in the top corner, the Little Black Couch, right? Well, I do that. One, the Dr. Aaron R. Stewart location, like if you go to that site, that basically is like a holding station. It has all my stuff on it. So it doesn't matter the project or whatever I'm working on, I will put it there. So if anybody really knows me and wants, it's so loud. I don't know what in the world I'm doing here. I'm yelling. Okay, sorry about that. And the movie was loud. I tried to make it loud. So anyway, so I want people to think, like, if they know me well enough, like if we get through all the subconscious stuff, right? 4 platforms and 14 different occasions, they need to hear my message in order for them even to break through the subconscious mind and get their attention. I've got to do that, right? So I have got to make sure that during those periods, I've got something that's super easy to remember, right? That's very associative. And so that's why I use the Little Black Couch. Okay, so it's very easy for folks to remember something that's tangible. The logo's pretty dumb, right? It's pretty simple. It's just a Little Black Couch. Now, those of you that have listened to me long enough understand what the Little Black Couch is, that he's a character, that I bring him in on the show, that I've nicknamed him Buddy. I mean, there he is. He's a tornado right now, right? So he's awesome. So I use him as a way to make it very easy for somebody to kind of go, you know what? It was something about a black couch. And if somebody goes out and searches the Little Black Couch or the Black Couch, they're going to be able to find that podcast and they're going to be able to find me. Okay, so when you're out there marketing to the general public, like on Facebook or whatever, you're doing these things, you want to have a very general topic. Oh my word, I've got training in an hour. You want to have a very general name so they can remember it easily and find you again. Okay, for podcasts, lives, whatever. Obviously with a live, it's easier for them to go find you. But for a podcast, they've got to have something that's super easy for them to remember. So if you leave them, if you have a call to action and they're trying to remember, okay, what's this guy's name? It was something Stewart, something or other, yada, yada. I don't remember what it is. Oh, but it was a black couch, something about a black couch. Okay, that's easier for we humans to remember. So that's why I use the Black Couch, and that's why it's sort of business related. And I use this as my way to break through to cold traffic. And then once they get to know me, then they can go over to the Dr. Aaron R. Stewart page and figure out all the other stuff that I'm doing, if they get interested that way. Okay, so that's why I kind of use it. So automate where you can. So any of you that are producing content, I highly recommend video, because it is really bringing in the folks, but make sure that you make it easy enough with your intro and outro so you can easily repurpose that to a podcast, because there's definitely a group of folks that are only going to consume that information through a podcast. Okay? The 9-to-5 folks that are out there working and they've got a commute, they need something to listen to, make it a podcast. That's easy for them to consume it in the manner in which they want to consume it. Okay? And then for your lives, you can do all kinds of different things to make it fun and make it exciting. But always, if you keep in mind that you've got a podcast opportunity and make sure that you are addressing that and make it as simple on you or your staff or whatever as possible, then the chances are much more likely that you will do it. So if you go and check out my podcast now, I've got like 100 and something episodes. And when this one gets done, I can then take it into an MP3 and essentially just upload it to my podcast platform, and I'm done. The podcast is over with. And then with some automations and stuff coming, I will have all the graphics for the live, for the thumbnails, and then those will be published all down through the social media sites. So I can get people to come and listen to this live through the social media. And then also, and on that, when I advertise the social media aspect of it, I also let them know that there's a podcast of the Little Black Couch. So you can consume it one of two ways: live on Facebook or the Little Black Couch, and then we also do these little videos and throw them up on Instagram too. So you're making sure that when you produce this content, it's very easily consumable on multiple platforms, because they got to see you on four different platforms, and they got to see you 14 times before they even start to remember who you are. Okay. The camera here is my daughter's. I'm trying to figure out how to use this for lives, and I cannot figure it out for the life of me. But I told her that I was going to use it today. So it's a problem. But it's my daughter's camera. Thanks, honey. Appreciate it. There it is. Dad's using your camera as promised. I'm honest. Okay. All right. Thanks, folks, for joining me today from the Little Black Couch. I hope that this is helpful. Make your lives easier and make sure that your content is consumable on a variety of different platforms. Then when you advertise it, you will be able to bring in as many people as possible to get your message out. And we have to get our messages out because we're entrepreneurs and the world depends on us. I don't care what the world says or the government say or whatever. We are changing the world, and the world depends on us whether they know it or not. And that's just the flat out facts. Till next time, Aaron Stewart from the Little Black Couch saying, do good and be well. Listen to the message now. Listen to the message that we've got now on the back end. Hey everyone, I want to really thank you so much for joining me on your entrepreneurship journey. If there's anything you learned today, or if there is a topic you would like me to discuss in the future, I would really love to hear from you. I do have a favor to ask. Would you please subscribe to our podcast or Facebook page, and please like, share, and use the hashtag #TheLittleBlackCouch. It would really help get this message out and hopefully help more people like us. Now let's get out and change the world together.